Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
I'm Sol.
Vander.
That's right. My buddy Vander is back here with us again. If you guys don't remember, Vander joined us for season 1 of House of the Dragon. Last time around, Vander is my comedy buddy here in Dayton. He and I are 2 of the 3 mics on the 3 mics podcast. Go check it out. But we're here because he, like Sol, knows all things going on from the books of, what is it, Fire and Blood?
Song of, well, yeah, Fire and Blood for this, but the universe is A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah. They know these books backwards and forwards. I am just a simple show watcher. So we're here to break down everything from this memorable season premiere of season 2 of House of the Dragon. One of the most probably evocative episodes of TV I've seen in quite some time. Vander, since you're our special guest here, I'll go to you first. How did you feel about this as somebody who was well versed in the lore going into this ahead of time?
The episode is pretty straightforward. I like that we're seeing some motives and some background dialogue that we don't get from the book, because the book is written, like I told you earlier, Mike, like a history tome basically, and it's only about 200 pages worth that they're going to stretch into 4 seasons of television or more. So I thought it was great, them filling in the blanks. We're seeing some motives and, you know, the things that these characters love, and I think it's great. Be honest with you, they held back. I know it was gruesome. It was a very messed up episode, but it didn't quite have all the details that the books had, which, in my opinion, would have been great details to it. Make it more like sadistic and more. You can imagine it not being much more impactful on Queen Helena than it already would have been, but in the books, like, it has a much more lasting impact on her. But other than that, no notes. Love it. The opening scene was a tearjerker. We get some Starks again. It's great to see the North and the Wall. And sorry, my wife's going to buy Chinese. I just got really excited.
Sol, what about you? How are you feeling about this premiere overall, as somebody who knew going into this kind of where we were headed?
Yeah, I loved it, and I think they did a really great job. It could have been more gruesome. I'm kind of glad that it wasn't more gruesome, though. I think that's better for TV. I do like that with the show season 1, and so far with this first episode, we get the, like, oh, that's the outside. Can you hear that?
All right, it's very, very light, very light.
You're good.
You get the, like, what actually happens, because we get multiple, it's like a history tome, and you get multiple perspectives of, like, oh, this might have happened. Oh, I don't think that actually happened, but I'm going to let you know this thing. It's a rumor, where we're actually seeing that what's actually happening. So I like that that's going on in the show. And as a correction, I've only read Fire and Blood. I have not read A Song of Ice and Fire, any of, like, the other books. So he is really the expert here.
Why are you here? What are you doing here? If you did, I just, anyway. All right, fine. I haven't read any of them, so who cares? It's fine. Yeah. I mean, just to. I mean, first, I guess I should probably put this up. I mean, yeah. Just to get it out of the way, it truly was the sound department's work on this episode that made it so memorable. This harkens to, and I don't know if either of you have watched The Legend of Vox Machina, but there's an episode in season 1 where some people are left hanging from a tree as a warning to the travelers, and over the credits you hear the sounds of the ropes swaying as the credits roll. It's messed up, and that's kind of what this had me feeling like, of just that whole, like, no, we're gonna, like, this, we're letting you live in the sounds of this on purpose. This is by This isn't like, oh wow, we accidentally made it sound that good. You knew what you were doing, you son of bitches.
Yeah, for sure. This is the first, like, obviously we saw violence and some gruesome stuff, more so with childbirth than anything else in the first season, but this episode has established itself as, you know, you're gonna see some messed up stuff as you saw in Game of Thrones. Like, this is the first time like a child has been murdered with their mother watching, like a royal family child.
Yeah.
So this was kind of leading off right where Game of Thrones kind of left, like picking up where they left off, and it's insane.
The first innocent bystander, because like even Luke like was acting as an envoy on his on behalf of his mother's claim to the throne. So like he wasn't a warrior, he was a messenger, but he was still acting as a political figure, as it were. Was it Jaehaerys, the son that was killed? Was it Jaehaerys? Jaehaerys was a sleeping 5-year-old. You know, completely innocent and all this. So yeah, this is the first like yes, Luke's death was a freak accident, but this was
targeted.
This was targeted. Now both sides have blood on their hands.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what Daemon's reaction to this is going to be, because they kind of leave it where you don't really know. You know, when the guy asks him what happens if we can't find Aemond, like, you don't really get a clear answer from Daemon about that. So you wonder if he's gonna be satisfied or mortified by what went down, because he was trying to put a hit out on the guy that killed Luke. Like, that's more of an even blood for blood type deal.
He specifically said blonde hair, one eye.
Yeah.
He specifically
put the hit out on a specific person. And you never know if Daemon was okay with them. If they find this child of the king, like, would Daemon have signed off on that?
Well, and it also, I mean, you got to remember this. Cheese was ready to just kill the queen. He didn't even care about that. Like for him, it was just like, I'm just going to kill someone.
Right.
So for them, how's Daemon going to feel? I mean, it's hard to predict how Daemon's going to feel about anything from one day to the next, really. But you know, my thought process would be, well, you killed the wrong person, and you probably made the worst choice. Like, the best choice would have been to kill. Well, you would have been smarter to try to kill the king. Than that. Like, this is just,
he was like, there. He was in the walked right.
And one thing to think about is I was rewatched the first season, and we got that too with the heir for a day. That's a rumor in the book of Daemon saying heir for a day. We don't actually ever hear Daemon say it. It's Otto Hightower who says it. So there's moments of dialogue for Daemon where it's other people either saying or you're interpreting that he said it, but you don't actually get to see it on screen. And I think that's one of the parts where they're trying to play like the rumors in the books, where you don't actually know what his intentions were.
Yeah. I would not be shocked if he's pissed, because it kind of lends itself to what Allison was saying to Otto when she says, like, I know there's going to be violence, but that doesn't mean we have to be stupid about it. And this is the flip side of that. This is when it's like, yeah, there's going to be violence, but this is what Allison was talking about trying to avoid, is shit like this. So we've seen from the trailers that some kind of funeral procession is going to happen that gets both Alicent and Rhaenyra in a carriage together. I had assumed from the trailer that was going to be Viserys's funeral happening if we were picking up right after where season 1 ended.
Is it Rhaenyra or is it with Helena?
Yeah, I don't think there was anything with Rhaenyra and Allison.
Oh, maybe I saw it wrong. I thought it was Rhaenyra in those shots, or it was just clever editing that really tricked me. I don't know, but
it could have been.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that was in the trailer at all.
but suffice to say, if this is how we're starting, and again, we're just talking about the last 5 minutes. We haven't even talked about the other 55 that took place.
Christian Cole is a bitch ass hoe.
Christian Cole. There are words I'd love to use to describe him that YouTube won't let me get away with in any sense of the imagination. But man, I've never. This to me is like as somebody who grew up with the Harry Potter books, it's like the first time you experience Professor Umbridge. It's like I've never hated a fictional character quite as much.
Yeah,
it's like man, Kristen Cole is going on the very short list of characters that like might ruin my perception of an actor. You know what I mean? Like whenever I see the guy who plays the Deep on The Boys, I'm like, oh God, I have to remember you are an actor.
And with him, because season 1, I don't want to be a whore. Like, and then now he's her whore.
Now he is all about that hoe life. He is yeah. Again, I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. I hate him. I want him to go. Vander, your thoughts?
I was somewhat shocked that they put it in there right away, because you're led to believe in the books, like it's a strong rumor that he slept with Rhaenyra in the books. Like it's almost implied that it for sure was taking place, and that, just the way it played out, where Rhaenyra kind of shunned him and didn't want to fly overseas and get married or anything like that. So then that's everything he does is almost like fueled by his hatred for Rhaenyra and how she broke his heart. So I was surprised that he's just doing the same thing with Alicent. But at the same time, I believe I don't think he loves Alicent the way he loved Rhaenyra. I think he's doing this because he fucking hates Rhaenyra. A little bit of that and a little bit of he's going to do whatever Alicent tells him to do.
Yeah. They're caught up.
Her sex slave now.
Yeah. They're caught up. They're both just caught up in the excitement of how wrong it is all it is. Yeah. They're just both caught up in that, and the fact that this is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Their mutual hatred of Rhaenyra has just turned into wanton boning, really.
And it's mostly hypocritical on Alicent's part too, because she was like the prissy, like, how dare Rhaenyra take advantage of a man and who's swore to the Kingsguard. So it's more surprising that she's engaging in this behavior,
because she's very holier than thou.
Yeah.
Especially after the whole thing, like when people were, because there was the whole thing with season 1 where they were wondering about whether or not she was still a virgin, because it's like if you're going to be heir to the throne, you've got to maintain you being a maiden. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool, you're banging the captain of the guard, like behind everyone's back. We can never again, we can never do this again, she said for probably the 9th or 10th time that week. Like, because
it's definitely, you could tell that it's not the first time that she said that.
Well, also,
she's just happy to bone a young guy.
They're both entirely too good at having sex with each other for this to not be happening at least once a day. They are far too in tune with each other's bodies. That's just wow. It is and all of this also, by the way, to remember that, like, we're also talking about a wildly incestuous family here, because again, like Aegon, we're talking about Aegon's children through his sister. It's a whole ass thing.
Which is not the first time Alicent has been hypocritical, because he said, "Oh, you Targaryens have your queer customs. Oh, let me have my children marry each other."
Right.
Yeah. It's like this is your family too, Alicent. But again, on Alicent's side, it's like she thought she was marrying she thought she was becoming the queen of Westeros, but honestly, she just became a baby factory for her husband to forget her name. Her
rotting husband.
That's what queens were in this world, though. That's what they were.
It's I think when she has that conversation with her father and she says like, just wait until he gets bored with this. Like he's going to find out really soon that being royalty really isn't that much fun. And I think she's speaking from experience because she was about to became the queen and realized real quick, oh no, this actually isn't that exciting. This is actually quite boring. And I think she was speaking from a place of experience when she was saying that to Otto.
Yeah. Not just boring, but lonely for her too, as well.
Mm-hmm.
She's still in that void with Kristen.
Yeah, because she would just sleep alone until her husband was like, "Hey, come in here."
Right.
It was like 3 a.m. and her handmaiden comes in and she's like, the king's asking for you. And she's like, 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's like, it's hard. I don't know what you want us to do. I mean, like, she just has to, So yeah, I think at this point she's just like, I'm just gonna have fun. I'm just gonna go do something for me.
I'm glad we're seeing a gray side to her because, on the one hand, yes, she's being adulterous. She's being hypocritical by doing exactly what she chastised Rhaenyra for. But when she's at the Sept lighting candles for lost loved ones, she lights one for Luke. Like, she's still got a lot of love for Rhaenyra and her kids. Like,
he's still family.
And she also doesn't want the violence, too.
Yeah, she doesn't want that at all. In her eyes, Viserys really told her to change things up and put Aegon on the throne in her eyes. Now, is that being blinded by, your own will and what your dad's been pushing on you this whole time? Absolutely. But in her eyes, she's justified putting Aegon on the throne. She wants, as desperate as the want is, for Rhaenyra to see that and know that. But it's just not going to happen. So she's got kind of a naive, stupid side. She's got a hypocritical side, but in her heart, she still has love for these people that she's about to go to war with.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting character. I love, especially with the female characters in this show.
Yeah.
They are writing them so well and giving them so much depth and more power and less just like, stereotypical femininity where they're just there to make the babies and keep it pushing. Like these female characters are being written very, very well. Ryan Condal.
Rhaenys.
Oh, Rain. Gosh. Even Helena in her own way, like the way they've written her and being like her, I don't know if you call them prophecy visions, but like she's got this crazy good intuition where nobody understands her when she says it, but like she knows when something bad is going to happen. She almost didn't look surprised when she was running out of that room with her other kid.
It was more like, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say she like didn't know. She like knew that it was gonna happen.
She almost had that look of just like, God damn it, not again.
Yeah.
It was less of a, I can't believe this happened. It's more of like, I can't believe this keeps happening.
Yeah.
It was exasperated. It also, because we also see earlier in the episode when Aegon is in there stomping around and she's telling him off. She's like, leave him alone. Like, we saw a little bit of that in season 1 too, when that night, the night that Viserys dies when they're all eating and she's like, you won't mind being married so much. He mostly just ignores you unless he's drunk. And, but she's clearly just like, I just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
She's almost like I don't know, like they wrote her as like somebody like on the spectrum, which I think is really good.
Oh, yeah.
So
100%.
She's acting it very, very well. I don't know if the real actress in real life is on the spectrum or not, but if she is, cool, then she's perfect for the role. If she's not, then she's doing a brilliant job of acting it.
I would like to see more from Damon's daughters from his marriage to Corliss's daughter.
Yeah.
Anyway, we all know what I'm talking about.
Bela and
because they kind of took a back seat in the latter half of season 1. Because at that point we had enough to focus on. But like, one of them was betrothed to Luke, and from everything that we saw, they got along. Like they made a point of showing us, like as they were growing up together, like whether it was at their mother's funeral, where they were like, go sit with your cousins and be nice with them, or when they get betrothed, it's like they seem to genuinely be getting along with each other. So I'd kind of like to know. I just kind of would like to see how they're doing,
You
because
got a lot of sad faces from them in the background.
yeah, I'd
Especially
like
the
to
one
know-
betrothed to Luke. Like she was
Yeah.
genuinely upset because that was a good marriage pact for her, and she really admired Luke. And
they I think Damon's daughters knew that Rhaenyra's boys are good boys. I mean, we all knew they're good boys.
Yeah.
they're bastards, but they're
It's
good
not
kids.
their fault. They don't give a
It's true.
fuck.
It's true.
And again, but also I feel like if anyone's not going to judge, it's going to be, hey, it's like they're bastards. Yeah, we're all related.
Yeah.
And the thing too is with all this incest, because they're bastards, it's a little less incestuous. It's still incestuous, but the
Yeah.
bloodlines are a little more
Yeah.
different between those two cousins instead of when you have like brother and sister or aunt and aunt. Like,
Because the Baratheons are technically like distantly related to
all
them
of the 7 families are.
in
You could
some
go
way.
back 3 or 4 generations, and there's
Yeah.
a Stark married to a Tully, or a High Tower married to a Targaryen. They're just
Exactly. It's just, yeah. So it's part of what it is. Okay, what else have we not covered? There's so much that happened in this one. We should talk some more because you've brought it up. I think we should definitely talk some more about that conversation between Allison and Otto.
I think it was very similar to the one that happened at the end of season 1, where she beat Otto to find. Well, she won against Otto in the journey to find Aegon and bring him back. You know, like she got, her guys were the ones that brought him back, Aemond and Kristen. And it's, I don't know, I think it's almost like the same conversation where, like, yes, we want to support Aegon and we want his rule to be good, but in different ways. Otto's kind of going the more sadistic, don't really give a fuck kind of way, and Allison's trying to be the voice of reason and good. So I don't think it's anything different than what we saw in season 1.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I like that in this civil war, you're having civil wars in their own houses, because you have Alicent versus her dad, and then I'm pretty sure we're going to see in the next episode Rhaenyra and Daemon.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Daemon versus Rhaenys, and I'm sure Corlys and Daemon are going to have some sort of a cross.
Well, that brings up a point you made, Vander, about how they were definitely seeming to go pro-black this episode.
Yeah.
When they were promoting this season of the show, they had one trailer that was very pro-black and another trailer that was very pro-green. When we had the last 2 episodes of last season, one episode was all about the greens, one episode was all about the blacks. This episode was very pro-black. So I wonder if they are treating the show and the episodes similar to the way the book did, where it's like, hey, this episode might paint this side a little bit differently. Like maybe the next episode that we watch is instead a lot more pro green. I don't know. Like,
I think they'll keep it very close to 50-50, like as close as they can.
Yeah.
To where people are making their own judgment on who is better. I think that'll be the case throughout the whole season. In the book, it's kind of like you kind of root for the blacks. Like I think they paint the greens in a more not ruthless, but I don't know. You feel like they're the villain in the books. At least when I read it, that's the way I thought. But I think the show is going to keep
women aren't painted very well at all. Both Rhaenyra and Alicent are not painted well at all in the books.
It says that, like, Rhaenyra is like a fat, bitter old lady now, and like, so yeah, that's another thing about the show that's different, is the women are actually, well written characters performed by amazing actresses.
Absolutely.
One thing I want to touch is Aegon in this, because you see in the small council, like, I'm like, wow, he's such a shitty king. And then when he's with the small folk, he's actually very just with them. And so I liked the portrayal of him in this episode, because they're giving that gray area. They were giving the gray with Alicent. They're
Yeah.
the only one that's not painted gray in this episode was Rhaenyra, because she was in grief. So you're
Yeah,
kind of just
yeah, yeah.
rooting for her through the whole time. But
Yeah.
everyone else, you're like, there's some good and some bad in them. And with Aegon, I was like, oh, he's the king of the people. Look
Yeah.
at this.
Yeah.
I was talking earlier to this with Shay. He's like, in season 1, he, in his own deranged, like lunatic way, was a man of the small people. Like that's where he would go to pass the time, and those were the women that he would sleep with. And as fucked up as it is, like he probably made a lot of parents rich off of those kids that would file their teeth and fight each other. Like,
Yeah.
so he's always had a place in his heart, I guess, for the small people. And now, as he's elevated to king, and he's still keeping that in a very different way, but he's still a man of the people.
Well, it's because he never wanted to be king. He never saw him. He never saw himself as king, because he's like, fuck ever. My sister's got that. I don't care. That's not.
I think that's his best quality, is that he never wanted it.
And when you get into that scene, it's very clear where he's like, it just plays back into what we saw during his coronation, where once people started cheering, suddenly he wanted to be king.
Yeah.
He wants to be king to the degree that it gets people to like him. Because
people pleaser.
When he sits down in court, that guy comes up. First thing he says is, "Hey man, it's cool. We're good.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
We're good. Hey, it's what's your name? What's your name? I'm Steve. You're Steve. What's your name? Cool. Yeah. What do you want? Cool. I'll give it to you. I can't. Oh shit. Okay. Well, I can't.
Right.
Yeah.
But then the next guy, he like pushes back. Like the next guy that's like,
yeah,
we need more money to make the weapons then he's like, Otto tries to tell him not to, and then he's like, you know what, Otto, sit this one out, brother. I got it. You're getting what you need.
That shows too that to me is also smart decision making, because on the one hand, it's like, yeah, no, I'm with Otto in that, like, you got to feed the dragons.
Yeah.
But I'm also with Aegon, and that it's like, yeah, but we still got to arm ourselves. So
and not only that, like, I'm the king as well, because if you keep showing like Otto making the decisions, then who's the actual king?
Yeah, it makes him look weak in front of the people. And there's, as Otto said, there were a lot of pleas they had to hear that day. And I
like that.
It was a really interesting, again, it was stuff like that from Game of Thrones that I always like to see, that once we started getting into the main meat of the conflict, that kind of thing kind of went away in Game of Thrones. We're not there yet with this show. We kind of get to live in that a little bit more, because that's kind of what the show seemingly is going to be about, is the politics of it all.
Yeah, I love it. I like that Aegon is more malleable than, say, like a Joffrey or even a Robert Baratheon. Even like he wants what he wants, and he's gonna advocate for it, but he's also gonna listen a little bit. He's going to listen to his mom, whereas Joffrey didn't listen to Cersei. He's going to listen to his hand, whereas, Joffrey would just do whatever the hell he wanted at all times, and nobody could tell him no. But at the end of this episode, he loses his heir.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe this side of Aegon that we saw in episode 1, where he's not very king-like, a little quirky, a little goofy, a little douchey. Maybe now that he's lost his son, we might see him just plummet into madness completely. I'm interested to see how they continue with him.
And the differences between him and Viserys as well, because he never was a part of the small council. He was never taught anything of kingly duties. So he wants to make sure that his son is there, even though he shouldn't have been there. He's like kind of a pest, which we never got reference to it in the show, but in the books, even Otto wanted Aegon as a small boy in the small council, and Viserys was like, nah, we're good.
Yeah. I mean, even we saw it with Viserys with Rhaenyra. Every time when Rhaenyra would still, because she was the cupbearer, but even after she got named heir, when she would chime in, he was like, hey, can we send her out to go to go pick the worst guard ever? So it's like, well,
can we send her out to make the worst mistake she's ever going to make in her whole life?
Exactly. Yeah. Suddenly that poacher catcher is looking really good.
I'm gonna be right back.
Go right ahead. But it does make you think, like, again, the people who should be in that room never seem to be in that room. Now Rhaenyra did eventually get in there when she like, was an adult, and after she, we saw scenes of that, but like, yeah, Aegon was never in there because he was never supposed to be king.
Yeah.
Aegon was never gonna be, the reason Aegon was never in there was because like, who cares if Aegon is in there? He's not the heir.
Which if Alicent was really thinking, she'd be like, okay, my husband has never shown once a day in his life that he wants his son to be heir.
Yeah.
Why would he do that now?
It just,
She heard what she wanted to hear.
She's drawing, she's got all the right pieces, but she is putting the puzzle together wrong, in the wrong order. Okay, we know not the sea snake, who was the girl who was the informant,
the white worm.
White worm.
Yeah, she's back, she survived. We weren't sure because we saw Otto saying, "Oh, don't worry, I'll remember," and then as Eric number 1 is leading Rhaenys out of Westeros, we see her house being burned. So she managed to survive somehow.
And you can tell that she got, which puts her at an even playing field as Laris. Like she's going to be, presumably she's going to be the Laris Clubfoot of the Blacks.
Mm-hmm.
And she's now on their side. And Daemon gave her a chance to prove herself. She did. She came through with the, sneaking Daemon in there and getting that work done. But the fact that she was able to escape that, like, Laris set the whole place on fire, but it's almost like implied that she got a heads up about it somehow. Like there's like her connections are just as rooted and just as deep as Laris's are, to where she could get out of that and she can start from scratch over in Dragonstone and help out Rhaenyra.
I don't know. I wonder because like she definitely looked like she had like been through a fire.
Yeah, definitely some soot.
Yeah. So I'm wondering. I wonder if we'll ever get the whole story there. Probably not. I think we've probably learned all we're going to learn about that.
Yeah, stuff like that is better left unwritten, the same way that Varys was in Game of Thrones in that universe.
Yeah.
Like, like you don't really know how he gets all this information. Like, I feel like if we learned that, then it would kind of ruin the element of surprise.
Leave something to the imagination.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she, but we get this great conversation from that between Daemon and Eric, where because Daemon is just looking to blame everyone. He's like, I need someone to blame for this, like my stepson / great nephew. So it's kind of confusing. Was just killed. My niece wife is in mourning. Everyone's in chaos. I need to find something to blame and destroy. And
my wife hasn't spoken a single word.
Yeah.
Because like literally the only word she spoke in this episode was I want Aemond.
But
such a badass line.
But Eric's But the thing I love is what Eric says to Daemon, which is like, we were sworn into the Kingsguard at 10 years old, and we promised to defend the royal family. What are we supposed to do when the royal family starts fighting with itself? It's like, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
I love that. I love the Cargill twins.
Yeah.
They're
and
I love that they split them up, and like one of them is, because they're both conflicted about the side they're choosing to fight for, not only because they're going against each other, but because like there's a gray area there. Like he's like, yeah, I know Aegon's kind of a piece of shit, but now you kind of see where Auric is coming from, staying on Aegon's side, because Aegon's the ruler now, and he's almost likable now. So I love that. I love that twins, both in the Kingsguard, have split sides, and obviously it's setting it up for them to meet in the field against each other in battle, which is awesome.
Well, it also lends to like what Rhaenys brings up to Daemon, which she brought up to Corlys when he came to in season 1, which is like, everyone was so against, Rhaenyra being the heir and being on the throne. She's the only one not calling for immediate war in season 1. And even now with Aegon, it's like, man, it's almost like if he had been trained to be king from a young man, he might have actually been halfway good at this, because he's got some natural instincts. So there were so many great glimpses because season 1 introduced us to a shitload of characters, and season 2 so far, just in this one episode, did a lot to flesh all those characters out a little bit more, because we learned a lot more about Aegon this episode. We learned a lot more about Otto and Allison, and we learned a lot more about a lot of characters in an hour.
And speaking of characters, Vander, we got Alan in this episode.
Yes. Alan of Hull, right?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I'm very
I'll take the reins on. Okay, cool.
Well, he's the guy that Corliss was talking to, the guy that presented him with the dagger that was supposed to be made for Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be an important character, I think, overall, because
I mean, I figured they wouldn't.
Corliss has lost his heir, so there's a void in Corliss's life outside of the who's gonna be the king or queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Like, his heir is gone, even though he knows that Luke was a bastard. Like,
right,
he no longer has somebody to take over his castle and his ships when he dies. So Alan is going to be a very integral part for him about what happens moving forward.
Because Jace is in line for the throne.
Yeah.
So the next in line
would be Joffrey.
Would be Joffrey, and that's not. Well, I mean, I guess as far as they're concerned, that's the last of. Well,
Rhaenyra does have 2 other babies.
Well, but I'm saying he was the last. Joffrey was the last one born when she was still married to.
Correct.
So technically, he still does have a Velaryon heir.
Yeah.
For Driftmark. It's just. I mean, he just lost his grandson. It sucks.
The difference, though, is with Luke, he'd be marrying his cousin, so then it would end up being Velaryon blood on the throne come the next, or not
no
throne, but come the next generation. But,
no matter what, it stays in his family.
Right.
Now,
whereas this one, Joffrey's a baby, a kid. So
and I don't think he's going to betroth his
yeah.
granddaughter to another Velaryon /Strong.
And also, I think this family is smart enough to be like, hey, sweetie, I know you've lost your mom, and then you just lost the guy we proposed you to marry to. Here's this infant.
Right.
Like, we already kind of tried that with their
Otto
mother.
Hightower.
I was gonna say, we already tried that with Rhaenyra and Aegon, and we tried that with Viserys and their daughter.
Yeah.
Let's just stop trying to marry people to children. Like, can we just let's stop making that a thing. I'm trying to. There were so many things that went down. I'm trying to remember if I've missed anything with this one.
Rhaenys saying, "Would that you're the king" to Daemon was the most badass thing.
Because even Daemon was like, "All right, yeah, you're right. I just got put in my place." Like,
that's a command from who? Who are you?
He's gonna act like, because technically he's the king, but he's the king consort. He's not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Rhaenys is. She knows that. She knows that Daemon knows that. That's how she was able to so casually be like, piss off, dude. I need to eat. My dragon needs to eat. We both need to sleep.
He's got as much power as much power as Jill Biden. He's he's got. So yeah, but also I will say, I said this on Facebook earlier. Now whenever I come home from work every day, I'm going to walk in the house and I'm going to say, Rosie needs to feast, needs to gorge and rest, and so do I.
And I think too, she might be the only one that Daemon actually respects outside of like his wife, maybe, and even like. He doesn't even respect his wife that much because we've seen him choke her out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When suddenly he realized she knew something he didn't.
Yeah.
I think he's scared of Rhaenys. I think everyone should be scared of Rhaenys because
is so good.
She's the best. She just that line of like, she might run into Aemond out there. She's like, then Aemond should be scared. Oh, you think Aemond wants to cross the mother of the little boy he just killed? I wouldn't. Mama got a dragon. I do want to spend a couple minutes. I think actually, like I know we talked about it a little bit, but Emma Darcy in this, I mean, not a lot of screen time, very little dialogue, absolutely ate every scene she was in. Oh, she communicated so much with so little in those couple of scenes. I welled up in the eyes. I just, my God, when she finds the bit of his cape with the wing, just
I'm looking forward to their performance for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And the only one that fully understands her completely is Rhaenys, because Rhaenys should have been the queen, and Rhaenys has lost her kids. Although one of them is alive, she doesn't know that. So if anyone's gonna know, like, leave this grieving mother be, it's gonna be her.
She tells her when my daughter died, she's like, you couldn't tell me a more thing. She was like, there was no consoling me. So and
then we see Rhaenyra, get their closure on it, because Rhaenys was like, Rhaenyra needs her closure on this, and then we saw that happen with the dragon wing washing up on shore. Very beautiful moment.
I really liked the moment where when she comes back and she tries to push past Daemon and he doesn't let her, and he just takes her for a moment and is just like, did you find what you needed?
Yeah.
Like doesn't say like, are you done? Are you bad? Doesn't give her any crap. He's just like, he just puts his head against hers and just doesn't let her shrug it off. Because in that moment she's trying to shrug it off because she's back in front of everybody, and I think he's just like, nope, take a moment. Are you good?
Yeah.
And
he's
then
criminally abusive to her, but he does love her. There's love there, obviously.
That's what I was gonna say. Say what you want about like him and her relationship. He does actually love her, like love her, even if he doesn't respect her.
Daemon loves his family. Daemon loved his brother. He loved his wife. He loves his daughters in his own weird.
Which is criminal that we didn't get him and his daughters like hugging and all that. That was a extended scene that they took out, which I needed that. I needed him with his daughters after his second wife died.
Yeah. That's the stuff that I'm hoping we get more of this season. Like I mentioned earlier, is like more scenes with those two, because look, 8 seasons of Game of Thrones told me you can throw 30,000 characters at me and I will care about every single one of them. So spending more time with these two girls is not going to be too much for anybody. That's why we're here.
I'll say this, we're going to see Baela more because she's a dragon rider. But Lena, I think is the other one's name. She's not a dragon rider yet, so it's a matter of if they give her a dragon or not.
She's the one who.
But Baela for sure, she's already a dragon rider. She's going to be a part of this war. Like she's going to be a fighter.
So I hope so, because you're right. I forgot about the fact that one of them does have a dragon, because I knew the one didn't, because that's the whole Vagar drama.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked about Aemond and his conversation with Kristen. That happened. There's some again, I don't know if anything.
Does Aemond know what he's doing with his mom?
I think he knows.
Aemond's smart. I feel like he does know. I don't think he really cares that much.
I think Aemond knew before they did. I think Aemond was like, oh, they're gonna bone.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
Although, did they bone before Viserys died?
No, I don't think
that's a good question.
I think it's a possibility.
I don't think Alicent would have done that.
Well, we've shown that Alicent's a hypocrite. I think she would.
We've shown that Alicent's a hypocrite now that her husband's dead.
She was a hypocrite before her husband died.
Yeah.
No, I think if that were the case, I don't think she would have tried as hard as she did towards the end. You know what I mean? I think given given just the way everyone else, the way she is with everything else, how wanton she is with everything else, I think prior to him dying, I think that was the thing. I think him being alive was the one thing stopping it from happening. I think because if this is only a week or two after the end of season 1, then it probably stands to reason. Oh, he's dead now. Okay, cool. Then we're just gonna bone. There's nothing stopping us.
And it could be implied that like the stress of knowing that Lucerys died, it's her son's fault, knowing that the realm is about to plummet into full-blown war, it could potentially be implied that all the stress that she's under as, you know, not queen anymore, but as the mother of the king, that she's under a lot of stress and could be pushed to make mistakes like that.
Yeah.
The only thing that's making me think that it's a possibility is her and Larry Strong. Like, she was showing them feet for him while he was
They invented OnlyFans on this show. Yeah.
That was for profit though. That was a transactional,
because he's because I think he knows. I think a lot of people know. No one's saying anything, but he was visibly
you were indisposed.
Yeah, he was visibly jealous when he said that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, he doesn't let a lot out, but he let enough out. It's like he was visibly jealous that he couldn't see her, that she was not available to him whenever he wanted. So, and
he's trying to get rid of Otto too.
I think that's why. I think at this point he realizes, oh, my use for her is running out. Time to make the next move.
Yeah. Well, it's the king now. Like she was queen when he was trying to get his hooks into her, and it worked. So now that Aegon is king, he's might try to get his hooks into him by pushing Aegon away from Otto and his mom.
Because sometimes it's better to be the voice behind the seat than in the seat itself.
Yeah.
So, lots to come from this. I think if this is how we're starting this season, and I believe they said another big time jump is coming this season, if I recall correctly. Kind of like how we did with season 1, where there was like the 10-year jump or whatever it was. I think they said we're doing another one this season. So
I'll have to look into that. I know that from this point on, it's supposed to be madness completely.
Yeah.
So,
well, again, we got 200 years of history to cover. So I'm not sure how much of that we're covering, but
Mike, as a non-book reader, what do you think is going to happen next?
I have no fucking idea. Because I didn't see anything from this episode coming by a long shot. Because again, I just knew there was a thing called blood and cheese, and I didn't know what that was going to mean. I thought it was going to be something involving actual fucking rats, not whatever the fuck this was. So
figurative rats.
Yeah. Because this is I've been watching other channels' reactions to this episode today throughout the day, and it's just every time I've watched, there's something else that like I realize I've missed. So like that to me speaks wonders to just how much they really did a good job of writing things interwoven through dialogue in ways it's like, oh, I didn't realize that connected to this, or this was a reference to that. It's like yeah, there's stuff that even like now in the 3 or 4 different reactions I've seen of people covering this, it's like yeah, there's so much here. So it's like I've been watching My Adventures with Superman right now, and it's like trying to make any kind of prediction about where that show's going is impossible. So I'm along for the ride. Honestly, I'm here to have a good time.
The rest of the season should be epic.
Fucking hope so. All right,
we're getting war, we're getting battles and dragon fire, and it's gonna be
because season 1, I think from you guys, I remember saying it was basically the prelude. Like season 2, now the story can begin.
Yeah,
get some dragons fighting each other.
Which look, at the end of the day, It like the dragons do for Game of Thrones what lightsabers do for Star Wars. It just put more of them in there, and people are going to be into it and make them fight.
I'll say this: I will not say who, I will not say when, I will not say how, but at one point, a dragon rider jumps off of his dragon hundreds of feet into the air onto another dragon, and it's super badass.
I have theories.
Like that, it's like Fast and Furious, but with dragons.
Okay, all right, I'm into this. Keep talking.
The dragons are going to space,
And it's all well, hey, if there's one thing that we can say about House of the Dragon, it's all about family. So. All right. On that note, guys, any other last quick thoughts before we wrap up talking about episode 1 of season 2 of
I love that we saw a Stark.
Yes.
We saw a Stark, we saw the wall. It was a beautiful moment. It was in paying great homage to the music that they would play when Starks would be reunited with each other.
Yeah.
That was a good opener.
And we got a Stark talking about honor.
Yeah. I did want to mention
Who would
that
have thunk it?
because we talked about that a little bit off the mic at the beginning, which is like that idea of how you said, Vander, like right now the wall, the Night's Watch is
well manned,
and as opposed to in 200 years where they're going through a staffing problems, they just, those millennials don't want to work anymore. And they're literally saying, like, throw your prisoners to us. We'll take anybody we can get. But it's that conversation that Jace has with the Lord Stark, whose first name I'm blanking on, where he tells them, he's like, you guys are just here protecting us against weather and savages. And Lord Stark's like, do you really think they would go to all the trouble to build this thing for just the weather? And it lends itself to that idea of like, yeah, there's already people who are starting to think, yeah, who gives a fuck about the wall? Why do we care? So that in 200 years, yeah, they've probably lost their funding and lost their staff, and because everyone's like, yeah, what it's just snow and
this is just a summer snow.
Yeah. It's just wildlings you're protecting us from. Who cares? And then lo and behold. So again, that's what I'm talking about. Just those early seedlings of like, yeah, this is the beginning of us not being prepared for when the White Walkers come.
Yeah.
And almost losing. Anyway, I loved it. I can't wait for next week. We'll be back here again, just like we are here. Hopefully with Vander back for this whole season. I'm not going to speak for him, but if he doesn't, I know where he lives.
Book him, Dano.
Let us know what you guys thought about it down in the comments. We'd love to know. Please let us know, and we will see you guys again here next time on Off the Wall. I'm gonna click the thing now.